My name is Seth, and in today's privacy chat, I've got the great pleasure of welcoming back Alex Romanov from the Beam Project. You may remember we interviewed Alex. It's been, only just over 2 years now that we had Alex on the show. Alex, welcome back to Mind Your Biz.
Hi, Seth. Great to be back. A long time indeed. A lot of things happened. And we have a lot to talk about, that's for sure. My name, as you said, is Alex Romanov. I'm the tech lead for Beam Privacy Project. Beam is a confidential blockchain and cryptocurrency. It was launched like 4 and something years ago in January 2019 and been around ever since. So we do have a lot of interesting innovations that we have worked on for the last couple of years that we didn't talk. And obviously, privacy has become, if only like more important, and it's becoming even more important every day. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay, phenomenal. Yeah, I can't wait. I've got, just as a backdrop here, this is the beam.mw website for anybody who's wanting to take a look at it more closely while we go through our chat later on. It's not beam.org. Sadly, I mean, that would be a difficult domain, I think, to get with just 4 letters. But beam.mw, and yeah, let's talk a little bit about the fundamental issue with privacy. I think most people, you tell them we're interested in adding to your privacy in some way, and more often than not, you hear people say, "Well, I don't need to be private. I haven't done anything wrong." Alex, what do you think? And this isn't representative of being you.
No, I hear that a lot. We get that a lot. And it's a great question. So specifically, like in Beam, we are first and foremost interested in the financial privacy when we talk about blockchains and financial products that are based on the blockchains and crypto, even though privacy is a very, large term which can be applied to many different human activities. But in our case, we are focused on this aspect of privacy. So one of the things that really happened and kind of emerged in the last 2 years since we last talked is the whole DeFi ecosystem, right? So back in the day when we just have started with Beam 2018 and 19, it was mostly about transactions, whether the transactions between individuals or corporations are confidential or not within the context of the blockchain. And one of the problems was that all of the transactions that were done on Bitcoin or Ethereum were basically completely open to anyone. Anyone could have looked at the data on the blockchain and understood what was sent from whom and to whom. And even though there is a pseudonymous feature of kind of generating as many addresses as you would like, we have seen from practice that it's quite easy to monitor, trace, and analyze the transaction graph. And when the centralized exchanges where you have to identify more often than not with KYC and provide your credentials became more kind of prevalent and popular, then this information can be eventually tracked back to you as a person. And there are companies, very large and serious companies like Chainalysis is doing exactly that for both like government and commercial customers. However, when the DeFi became more popular and it became obvious on Ethereum because Ethereum allows to create smart contracts that you can use to create decentralized financial applications, and the great invention of Uniswap, or in general like AMM-based swaps, which allowed decentralized exchanges to be usable, and they became immensely popular, as well as other DeFi applications, the loans, the stable coins, all of these financial instruments that have appeared in the centralized financial world, they have added a new layer of interest for people to trade on top of the blockchain. And with that addition of new layers, the term of privacy became, in this context, even more important, because now you're not just kind of trying to understand who can see how much you are holding in terms of the cryptocurrencies or how much you are sending and to whom, but also you, as you become a trader, you are in a situation where you can be front run, for example, so anyone can monitor your trades and understand your strategy and figure out like when you're going to do this trade or the other. And it became very obvious. Like you see Twitter accounts like the whale, whale monitor or things like that. Like this individual suddenly purchased that or sent that. And even in the world of NFTs, which also happened during this period of time that we didn't talk, a lot of people were actually interested in kind of showing off some of their collection, but without just anyone being able to trace everything that they're holding and all the bids that they're making on different marketplaces. So even in the NFT context, privacy became quite an issue.
Yeah,
So
I would say, sorry for the interruption. I would say, especially in the
sure.
NFT ecosystem, because by their nature, the assets themselves are non-fungible. So they have their own form of being able to mark a transaction history, whether or not the on-chain links are broken, because the asset itself is meant to be a unique marker. So it is a unique problem for sure. With NFTs.
I think one of the funniest stories that were happened like in this context is like, I don't remember exact names, but one of the larger newspapers or news organizations purchased an NFT, and then people just airdropped a lot of shit into that account, so everybody like could see that they're also holding. So it was really really strange, but in a world where you don't have privacy and you can link everything, so that's what happens.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we did during those 2 years, we have added smart contract capabilities to Beam. So it was something that did not exist 2 years ago. And using these smart contracts, we have created the same kind of variety of DeFi tools and applications, but with the built-in privacy support. And I will give just like two small examples, because the time is limited, but I could really talk about this for ages. But I will give you just two examples why this is important. So first of all, you are probably aware of the phenomenon of the MEV, minor extractable value, or maximum extractable value, right?
Yeah, thank you for correcting it there. I mean, it's certainly within the Ethereum ecosystem. It's got nothing to do with miners now, but it's still happening. So it must be something else, right?
Absolutely. So it started as miners, but it was adopted to maximum extractable value once Ethereum switched to proof of stake. However, it's a real issue, because what is happening is that by analyzing the transactions in the mining pool, in the mempool, these MEV hunters, they extract a lot of profit by front running and back running or sandwiching the transactions. And this is obviously a big issue. However, it's not just limited to analyzing a specific block, because you can monitor whenever specific individuals that are associated with specific coins are making trades. You can infer a lot of information from knowing and linking those addresses together. So that's just like one example. Another example is, once again, from the world of NFT. It's almost impossible today to, if you are talking about real NFTs minted on chain, to transfer anything without everybody knowing what happened, right? And it has huge implications. So what we've done in Beam is basically allowed people to do the same exact activities of trading on decentralized exchanges, or creating or purchasing NFTs, but with the privacy. So nobody knows exactly who you are. All of the information about your trades is completely unlinked. So even if you are performing two trades, one after the other, they look done by different people. And we have integrated all of that into our wallet ecosystem to make it accessible and easy to use. One of the things that we've created, for example, we call it BANS, Beam Anonymous Naming System, right? Just like ENS on Ethereum. But unlike ENS, when somebody sends you funds to your address, BANS address, all of those transfers are completely unlinked. So if somebody looks at your address on chain, they can know exactly how much money is currently in the contract. That's visible information. However, they don't know. Nobody knows who sent it to you, and how many people there was, whether it was a single individual or many small donations. So this is, for example, a great advantage that we have at Six like that. So yeah, we've been doing kind of privacy for DeFi for the last 2 years mostly.
That's phenomenal. I mean, and I don't need to tell you, it's greatly needed too. I think a lot of the proposed solutions within the broader DeFi ecosystem, a lot of them are found lacking, and unfortunately, some of the contributors to those privacy solutions on top of Ethereum have really they've paid a very heavy price for attempting to add privacy to an ecosystem where it wasn't the original value proposition, as opposed to Beam, right, where that's been it's a primitive. It's understood to be a primitive where it's uncontroversial to add any other products or or additional service layers on top of privacy. So let's talk a little bit in just a bird's eye overview. What are some of the ways in which Beam distinguishes itself from other DeFi ecosystems, since this is kind of the main direction of the project right now?
Yeah, so like in most of the privacy-oriented projects, you have to choose between either having like layer 1 privacy or having smart contracts. And Beam is combining both of those approaches. So we are a layer 1, completely confidential by default blockchain, where all of the transactions are confidential and can only be disclosed by people involved in them, and not by bystanders or somebody looking from outside. And we have added to that a layer of smart contracts that allows anyone to create applications that will use this confidentiality for their needs, like on-chain voting, for example. Today, most of the DAOs are doing on-chain voting on Ethereum or other transparent blockchains where you can see who was voting for what, with which amount of locked funds, etc. In some cases, as we know from our regular life, when we go to the voting booth, we are protected by some level of privacy. In some ways, it's beneficial to have private voting. So this is just like one of the examples of the app that you can build on Beam. There are a lot of interesting solutions that try to solve confidentiality along the way. Like, for example, ZK rollups, right? So ZK rollups is a solution that is initially created for Ethereum scalability, but since it features combining a lot of transactions into a single compact zero-knowledge proof, it also adds privacy along the way. And this privacy, I call it the privacy for the big guys, right? Because the privacy is indeed like monitored by that organization that can take all of these transactions and create that proof. And that means that if the government or whomever can access this data. However, you cannot know, right? When you are looking at the ZK rollup transaction, you cannot know what was there. So it's a privacy, like it's not a privacy for the little guy, which is what Beam is doing, where everybody has the same kind of level playing field, and nobody knows. Like there is no single entity or a group of entities that combines the information and then keeps it private going forward for everybody else.
Right. And pardon the interruption.
Yes,
I'm gonna ask. I'm taking for granted then that laying out the fundamental difference in the approach of a lot of these ZK EVMs, right, or ZK rollups or ZK EVMs, that are all the new hotness, right, in Ethereum development and in sidechain and second layer development in EVM. But with Beam, it seems like the primitive privacy layer for Beam was always Mimblewimble, correct? And then some additional layers of privacy that the Beam team innovated by reading about some additional approaches and then coming up with your own novel approaches to adding to decreasing metadata leakage on top of Mimblewimble. So correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a little time since I've checked in, but that's still the case even with smart contracts, as you're essentially building them on top of UTXOs.
Almost, yeah.
Okay,
it's a great question.
Great.
It is a great question. I will try to answer it as kind of compactly as possible, even though it, once again, the technical details can last for ages. Beam started with Mimblewimble as a base protocol, and hence the domain name like beam.mw. MW stands for Mimblewimble in this case. And one of the most, I would say, kind of talked about nuances about Mimblewimble, it was a potential linkability of transactions between wallets for an active attacker. An active attacker is somebody who is trying to actively figure out a link between the wallets. And in order to fix this situation, we have added another protocol, which is called Lilantus. It was originally created for Firo. It was called Zcoin back in the day by a very talented young cryptographer. His name is Aram Jivanyan. And the idea of Lilantus is to create a shielded pool where you can put one UTXO in, and then after some period of time, take a completely new UTXO out and prove that they have the same amount, but the link between them is lost. So when we have combined Lilantus with Mimblewimble, we created a new kind of hybrid protocol. We have called it Lilantus Mimblewimble to kind of indicate where it's all coming from, and we've published a paper about it. So it's like validated. the idea is that you use Lilantus to break the linkability while maintaining some of the trade-off for Mimblewimble, which provides great kind of scalability in terms of the blockchain size. So the combined approach allows you to take best of both worlds and combine it into better privacy while maintaining some of the original advantages. Regarding the building the DeFi, what we've done, and this is once again something very interesting in my opinion, we used this very cool feature of Mimblewimble that allows you to extend the protocol in many different ways. And we have added a conversion between UTXO and account-based models. So in some sense, Beam today is not UTXO-based like Bitcoin or account-based like Ethereum. It kind of combines both of these approaches. So when you send a transaction, it starts its way as UTXO in your wallet. And when it arrives to the node, it can instruct the node to convert the UTXO that you're sending into the state inside the smart contract. And that's what happens. So UTXO is being consumed by the node and the state is being updated. And obviously, vice versa, you can also take some value from inside the contract and emit it back as UTXO. And this is what allowed us to create this approach that when you send a regular transaction, it's completely UTXO-based, but when you interact with smart contracts, you are transformed into account-based.
Got it. Wow. Okay. So it sounds then with that hybrid approach, the smart contract layer that Beam uses now, I mean, are Solidity developers able to port their contracts over to this new system since it's gone into an account-based model? Is it similar to EVM or is it architected in some novel way?
Okay. So right now it's a bespoke architecture that we have developed. And right now, in order to develop smart contracts on Beam, it's a completely different technology stack. We have basically built our Beam virtual machine from scratch. It uses WebAssembly as the underlying engine. And the contracts can be written in C++, Rust, or any other programming language that can be compiled into WebAssembly. The reason we did it was because of two things. First of all, it was kind of faster for us than adopting AVM back in the day. But it also made sure we get maximum benefits from all of our confidential building blocks that we already have. Having said that, what we're doing right now for our next hard fork, which is planned probably around summer, like late summer this year, is we are adding EVM support alongside BVM. So we will have an option to develop contracts for either of the virtual machines. And this will allow to port much more easily existing contracts from Ethereum ecosystem to Beam. So that's something that's happening and is going to happen in the next hard fork. However, even today, and like I will give you two interesting advantages for our virtual machine, right? Because obviously it's very difficult to learn a new programming language, new technology, especially for a relatively small project like Beam is. It's much more. Makes more practical sense to learn Solidity if you're a new developer. However, there are two interesting things that we have that Ethereum doesn't. For example, our smart contracts can subsidize transactions, including transaction fees, which means that you can have a decentralized faucet implemented as a smart contract. So a new user can go into the wallet and say, oh, can I get some small amount of Beam to play with? But I don't have any Beam to pay for transactions. No problem. You will ask the contract will provide some Beam for you, but also pay transaction fees for your transaction.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that is phenomenal. I mean,
now you will say, okay, who needs that? You can use a centralized faucet, but let me give you another example to use it. For example, you want to embed Beam decentralized application as part of your regular Web2 website, and you want the action to happen on the blockchain, even though your users don't even know what Beam is. You can do that because you can subsidize their transaction. So you can create a voting website where people vote, and this is recorded on chain, and you subsidize it through your kind of, you just deposit some funds into the contract, and it subsidizes the transaction fees. Because the transaction fees are relatively low, it can support quite a lot of actions for like relatively small amount of funds.
Sure,
well, that's one example.
The other use case that comes to mind immediately when you mentioned that capability is any kind of tokens that are currently transferred along any other smart contract networks right now. This is not a very intuitive workflow for us as humans, right? If I have to exchange US dollars to some other foreign currency, when I get to my destination, I transact in that currency without paying an additional fee to use the currency, right? Even though I'm already in that ecosystem, right? It's a very foreign concept to be on a blockchain and have to pay a gas fee to transact in some sort of currency that runs along that network. So with stablecoins right now being the new hot issue, right? Like that, it makes sense to me, intuitive sense to me, what you're saying.
One of the things we've done with that, we have created this proof of concept for decentralized Git repository, like GitHub, only decentralized. And it looked exactly the same for the developer. So there was no kind of part of the operation where you had to open the wallet and click like confirm or pay the fees, because the fees were paid by the account owner, right? So just like with regular GitHub, the organization pays for the account and then you can use it for a month or so. Let me give you another like very interesting example of what can be done on Beam, but nowhere else. You can convert your NFT, which is in the contract, you can convert it into a new type of confidential assets. On Beam, you can create new confidential assets, which will be as confidential as Beam itself. And what it allows you to do is to kind of take your NFT from the gallery, convert it into the new asset, and then trade it confidentially with anyone you want, and then put it back into the contract when you want to sell it again on the market. It's like when you go to the art gallery, you buy a piece, you put it in your vault, you don't show it to anyone, and then you kind of sell it to private, collectors.
Sure. You sell the vault. Yeah. Or like or estate sales, right? Where you pay for the entire estate without knowing what's contained inside. Yeah, that's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love the concept for sure. In terms of privacy, I mean, the way that we have like in other privacy preserving technologies, right? Self-destructing messages and encryption layers for for various different file types and structures, and then or encrypted compression algorithms too, or encrypted compression schemes that allow us to send a fully encrypted package or data payload. That makes so much sense for a blockchain to feature that as a primitive. So that's great.
We have used this exact concept in our dApp store. Like when you want to create a new application on Beam, you can either just create an application and then publish it, wherever you want. It can be on the website, on the storage. You can download it as a file and then use it in the wallet. But if you want to be a completely confidential also as a publisher of that application, you have this option as well. We created we call it a decentralized application store. So it's like D squared dApp store. What you're doing, you're registering your publisher key, and then you only publish this key. And when somebody adds it to the wallet, they can see all of the applications that were published under this key. The code and the data itself is stored on IPFS. So it's also decentralized, and our wallets integrate with IPFS. And the contract makes sure that, whatever you download matches what was uploaded in terms of like the hashes and like everything that wasn't tampered with. And you can become an anonymous publisher of dApps on Beam. So that's also possible.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. This is making a whole lot of sense. Yeah. The sort of the blockchain agora concept and the broader dApp ecosystem and especially the pivot. I mean, not exactly pivot, but the building in the direction of DeFi. All of this makes a lot of sense. Can I ask right now, as far as participation and as far as the loyalty from the community, I know that upon launch, as a proof of work project, there was fierce loyalty to Beam because so many of us just believe in the distribution, the sort of fair distribution of proof of work, and then also the decentralization model of using proof of work across commodity hardware like CPUs and GPUs, or even FPGAs, right? Less so ASICs. Right, where a lot of that's been captured, there's been a sort of de facto centralization where the hash rate is captured by only large entities on networks like Bitcoin and Litecoin. Beam has been very favored by the GPU mining community. What has participation been like with that community in this new direction of DeFi? And you mentioned even with some of the NFT schemes that you mentioned as well. I mean, it sounds so cool. What has the community response been like?
So, let's separate the mining community from the general community, even though it obviously has a lot of people in common. So from the mining perspective, we are still mineable on GPUs, and we are using Beam Hash 3, which is a very efficient algorithm for mining on GPUs. So most of the way, we were very profitable to mine. I think it changed when, in general, like the bear market in general, but also Beam was delisted from Binance recently, and the price right now is not very high.
Yeah, personally, I view a delisting from Binance as good. It usually means that your privacy scheme works.
I really don't know. I really have absolutely no information. We have found out from Twitter, just like everybody else, right? So there was no prior communication with the team. Yeah. Even the opposite is true. We were actually communicating with the Binance team about the Ledger integration. We have added Ledger hardware wallet support recently, and they were very interested in it. So we did kind of a lot of updates on this topic. And then suddenly we saw the tweet that were delisted, and obviously it caused a big sell-off and the reduction in price. But other than that, the community was, even in this specific event, and I really can't appreciate it enough, very supportive, both in our technological innovations and things we're doing and building through all the years, despite everything that's happened around us, good or bad. We've been very active and developing, and community appreciates that. And we, as you know, are currently moving to the DAO model. So we have on-chain voting now. And using this DAO model, it's much easier and much more, it feels much kind of more right and correct to delegate a lot of influence to the community. And eventually, we will delegate all of it. So the DAO is the kind of the end goal of our transition in the governance process. We have created a new token. It's called BeamX, and it's used as a governance token for Beam. So yeah, like the community has been great. Yes, the BeamX, exactly. The BeamX is actually kind of the governance token that allows you to participate and influence the decision-making for the entire Beam platform. It has been used recently in two very important votes. There are two important launches that one has already happened and the other one is happening in about a week. So the one that happened is a project called Nifrit, which is a separate project, but it's a confidential stable coin, which is over collateralized, just like Liquidity, if you are familiar with this project, or
I am very familiar with Liquidity. It is it's been on my radar in a very big way for some time now.
Yeah, so it uses very similar model to Liquidity with some small changes, and it's already live in our application store. And it was developed by anonymous team, and it was actually distributed using our confidential DApp Store feature. So that was like real life use case. The second launch, which is happening about a week, is the DEX, which is AMM-based DEX, which will be launched on Beam, and it will allow to trade any confidential asset that you have on Beam, but create a pool for it and trade it. And right now, what we're doing is we're doing this liquidity accumulation for the BeamX pair, which is obviously one of the more important pairs that we want to support as BeamX DAO. And if you're interested, you can obviously join any of our communities or ask us on Twitter how to participate. So yeah, that's something that's going on right now. And once the accumulation phase is over, in about a week, as I said, the DEX will be launched. So yeah, so we've been doing a lot of development on that front. I think one of the most important things that we need to do right now, first of all, obviously EVM support is coming, but that's still a few months away. But we are going to also improve our web interfaces, web wallet, which was recently updated, and we will also feature all of the decentralized applications as websites, because as I said, you can actually integrate very easily with websites. So we are going to use this technology to simplify, especially for new people discovering Beam now, the access, because as of now, you need to download the wallet, synchronize it, it takes time, so it's not something that most people are willing to do. People are used to MetaMask and kind of immediate setup of the wallet, and our web wallet will allow that as well. So it will be much simpler to get started with Beam going forward.
Phenomenal. So can I just ask, we're coming up on time here, but with this web wallet that's coming up, will this feature integration with the Ledger support or the hardware wallet support that Beam already has?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's going to be in the first version of the web wallet, but all of our desktop wallets already integrate Ledger. So Ledger is mostly, in my opinion, useful if you are holding a large amount of Beam. It's very important to keep your seeds private. And that's why we have added this functionality after a long time. The Ledger officially does not support our app yet, so it's like more of a custom solution. They are very busy, integrating other projects that are higher in the CoinMarketCap list. But yeah, like we cannot blame them; they are backed up. But you can use Ledger today. The installation is super intuitive. You don't need any external tools. The Beam wallet, as you download it, performs all of the installation on Ledger. We work with Ledger Nano X and Nano S and Nano S Plus. So even the older model will work with Beam, which was not a trivial thing to do because, Beam and Wimble with confidentiality requires quite a few calculations to be made, but our genius developer managed. Yeah, so that works. Obviously, it can be also added in the future to the web wallet.
Okay,
but the web wallet, is mostly for like getting started, right? Once you have a lot of Beam and like heavy activity on Beam DeFi, yeah, obviously it would be better for you to have a desktop wallet. But to get started, to get the feel for our applications, as you know, they're all very good looking and well designed in terms of usability. We invest a lot of efforts in making this look good and be simple to use. I think it will be a great starting point for many people.
Okay, phenomenal. The reason I ask about the hardware wallet support on the web wallet is just the off use case of a person who may be traveling or may want to use a mobile device and may want to log in with their hardware signing device, so that they have ephemeral access to a wallet without having to rebuild hardware support into, say, like a mobile wallet client, or also allow that person to just log into any terminal anywhere in the world, but with a hardware wallet, and still have their wallet with them. Somewhere using the web wallet, but yeah, I don't know. I think of weird situations like that. I'm traveling a lot more lately, so I find myself in strange places more frequently, and this has become a use case that I'm coming to value more. So anyway, just a thought. But Alex, I really appreciate your time. It's been so great hearing about some of the updates, and as you mentioned, I'm sure it's true. We could talk about Beam and some of the progress that's been made and some of the roadmap items for the next 2 hours. I'm just going to put it to the community. Anybody who's watching this interview, would you like to see an encore interview with Alex from Beam now in 2023 with what they're currently building? What questions do you have? So hopefully we get some comments from once this goes live. But Alex, let me ask you, where should people who are uninitiated or not following Beam so far, where are the best places for them to become acquainted with the project? And what is the greatest need for people to come in and contribute right now?
Yeah, so we have a Twitter account that's updated regularly with both news and all kind of commentary, but it definitely features all of the updates as they happen. We have a weekly Twitter space that I myself, with our community manager, we host it every week. And usually, people can come in. It's a great place for new people to ask questions directly from, myself. We also have a big community on Telegram at Beam Privacy, so you can use either of those links. Yes, exactly. Obviously, if you are a developer, everything we're doing is open source, so you can look at the repositories. Currently we need feedback. We need feedback on everything we're doing, because a lot of things that we do, as you probably heard, is new. And we are actively looking for people who have ideas in DeFi and or privacy, and are interested in doing something in this space, because Beam right now turned out to be a very good platform to build things. We have a lot of different capabilities and integration options. So either existing projects that are moving from other blockchains, or projects that are interested in privacy, like private voting or private messaging, or anyone who has a great idea about DeFi application can come and contribute, provide feedback on what we're doing right now. And we provide also a lot of support and help in building new things on Beam. That's what we're doing right now. We're growing our ecosystem. We have completed this very large amount of work in building a very good infrastructure that allows us to expand in many different areas. And that's what we are looking for, people to provide feedback and to help us grow our ecosystem.
Awesome. Okay, well, community. You see all the links that were mentioned in the description. Of course, they're available at beam.mw as well. You've seen that on the screen a few times. Alex, really appreciate you making time. I know it's the time difference makes it more of a sacrifice for you to be in this interview than it does for me right now. So much appreciated for that. And I can't wait to see when the community, demands that we do a follow-up interview. But this has been a pleasure getting caught up, and can't wait to see what comes next from the Beam team. Thank you so much.
It's been great. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, and have a great day.